The Price of Steel and Silk, Chapter 1, The Ascent. The Smoke of Progress. New York City, Autumn 1893. The air above Manhattan was not air at all. It was a dense metallic mist, a concoction of coal smoke, industrial soot, and the faint, coppery scent of money. From the 11th floor windows of the new Van Der Linden Tower, a structure so tall it seemed to mock the spire of Trinity Church, Elias Van Der Linden surveyed his domain. He was 42, but his face, perpetually set in a mask of calculating serenity, seemed carved from the same granite that built his factories. Elias was one of the robber barons, though he despised the term. He was an industrialist, a man who had built American infrastructure, not plundered it. He controlled the nation's most efficient steel foundries, the metal that gave rise to every new skyscraper, railway track, and warship. His office was a study in controlled luxury. Dark mahogany paneled the walls, thick Persian rugs silenced the sounds of the street, and a newly installed electric lamp hummed quietly, a tiny victory over the old, flickering gaslight. "The contracts for the Great Northern Extension are signed, Mr. Van Der Linden," his secretary, Mr. Finch, announced, a man as gray and efficient as a ledger book. Elias did not look away from the window. "And the price of iron ore, Finch?" "Up 3 points, sir, due to the unrest in the Masadi Range." Elias finally turned, his eyes, the color of cold river water, narrowing slightly. "Unrest is merely a temporary inconvenience for those with foresight, Finch. We shall release 3,000 tons of reserve stock into the market tomorrow. That will cool the unrest in prices quickly enough. Inform the union leaders that their next shipment of grain from my mills will be delayed by a week." Finch swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. To delay food was a calculated act of cruelty, a move that would tighten the screws on the striking steelworkers. "Very well, sir. And tonight, sir, the Astor Ball?" Elias allowed a faint, wintry smile to touch his lips. "Tonight, Finch, we remind the old guard that the true power in this city lies not in inherited titles, but in the yield of one's own hands. Prepare the carriage, and ensure the diamond brooch for Isabella is safely secured." The Gilded Cage. 3 miles south, in the modest but immaculately kept brownstone of the Benton family, a very different struggle was taking place. Miss Clara Benton was 23, with hair the color of raw honey and eyes that held a defiant sparkle. Unlike her society sisters, Clara had no patience for the endless parade of chaperones, embroidery, and eligible bachelors. Her mind was occupied by the plight of her father, Mr. Thomas Benton, a former independent publisher whose newspaper, the New York Tribune of the People, was now hanging by a thread. "Clara, dear, you must try to focus," her mother, Mrs. Eleanor Benton, sighed, adjusting the lace collar of Clara's plain, though expensive gown. "The Astor Ball is the event of the season. If you can secure the attention of even a respectable second-tier industrialist, your father's debts—" Clara pulled away, her voice low and tense. "Father's debts are not my burden to shoulder by marrying some man whose fortune is built on the backs of starving men, Mother. His debts are the result of telling the truth." "The truth?" Mrs. Benton whispered, glancing nervously at the wall that separated them from their neighbors, "is a luxury we can no longer afford, Clara. Elias Van Der Linden is buying up every printing press and paper mill in the city. If your father doesn't sell him the Tribune soon, we will be ruined." Clara walked to the small writing desk crammed into her room. On it lay a half-finished editorial, scathing in its critique of Van Der Linden's recent price manipulation. "I won't let him sell it. The Tribune is the voice of the workers, the one newspaper left that prints the realities of the Massabi strike. It is the only thing standing between Van Der Linden and absolute control." "And what will you do, my girl? Challenge him in a newspaper that has no paper to print on?" Mrs. Benton's voice was edged with desperation. "No, tonight you will be charming. You will smile. You will find a solution that involves a wedding, not a war." 3. The collision of worlds. The Astor Ballroom was a cathedral of wealth. The air was thick with the scent of lilies and French perfume, and every surface seemed to reflect the light of 1,000 candles and the glitter of countless diamonds. The women were encased in silks and velvets, their bosoms barely contained by the severe corsetry, a sea of color and controlled brittle laughter. Elias Van Der Linden entered the room, and the noise level seemed to drop. His presence was not merely social, it was financial. He moved with the quiet confidence of a man who could buy every object and every person in the room, a fact that made many of the older, established families seethe with resentment. He was momentarily halted by the doyenne of society, Mrs. Caroline Astor herself. "Mr. Van Der Linden, a pleasure to see you. Such a remarkable building you have erected." "It's practical, Mrs. Astor," Elias replied, his voice a low rumble, "unlike most things in this room." He scanned the faces. He was not looking for a wife, merely a suitable alliance. His marriage would be a merger, a consolidation of influence. His gaze fell upon a young woman standing slightly apart from the main cluster of debutantes. It was Clara Benton. She was dressed in an older, less fashionable dress than the others, a deep sapphire velvet that somehow made her stand out rather than blend in. She wasn't smiling. She was watching the room, observing, judging, taking notes. Their eyes met across the vast polished floor. Elias felt a rare flicker of curiosity. This woman was not flirting. She was assessing him like an engineer assesses a fault in a bridge. Clara, meanwhile, felt a cold dread mix with a burning anger. There he was, the man whose ruthless hand was choking her father's livelihood, the man whose steel was stained with the sweat and blood of the men she championed. He looked powerful, utterly unshakable, a titan of his age. As if drawn by an invisible, antagonistic magnet, Elias began to walk toward her. "Miss Benton," he said, his voice smooth and commanding as he reached her side. Clara straightened her back, meeting his gaze without flinching. "Mr. Van Der Linden, the owner of all things, I presume?" He smiled, a brief, sharp flash. "Not all things, Miss Benton, merely the important ones. I understand your father's newspaper is facing difficulties." "His newspaper faces the difficulty of being honest in an age you prefer to be gilded," she retorted, the words rushing out before she could stop them. "The men in the Masabi Range are starving, Mr. Van Der Linden. Does your latest dividend taste of bread and butter or desperation?" Elias leaned in slightly, his voice dropping so only she could hear. "Desperation is a powerful tool, Miss Benton. It makes men work cheaper and sell faster. Your father is a man of sentiment. I am a man of action. Sentiment loses money. Action wins the age. Now tell me, do you dance, Miss Benton, or do you merely observe?" Clara felt the challenge in his eyes, a direct confrontation. This was not flirting. This was the first skirmish in a war for the soul of the city. "I dance," she replied, her voice steady, "when the tune is worth the effort, Mr. Van Der Linden, but I never let my partner lead me in circles."